Hello guys, welcome to our lessons. My name is Clement from Sauti Tamu Center of Music. Welcome to our piano online Pack 1 lessons. In this pack, we are dealing with the foundational lessons for beginners. Pack 1, we are dealing with the terminology used in piano and the naming of the piano. One of the things that we have to understand with the piano is that we have to understand the musical terms related with the level that we are doing. And one of the terms that we are going to define is what is a note. We are going to define what is a chord, because we are going to use a lot of chords. What is a scale, what is a tone, and also what is a semitone. Those are very, very important terms as far as this level is concerned. Now, a note is a single position in piano. In piano, we have two types of notes. We have black notes and we have white notes. All these white notes, they are the other name of white notes, they are called naturals. And the black notes, they are called accidentals. Now, one single position is called a note, whether it's a black note or a white note. That is what is a note. Now, a chord is a combination of more than one note, either 2, 3, 4, 5, as long as it's more than one, is called a chord. The other terms that you're supposed to understand is a scale. What is a scale? A scale is a 7-note sequence with a notational sound with a semitone between the third and the fourth, and between the 7th and the 8th. What do I mean? I mean, if you are doing, for instance, a scale of C scale, you start with C and you will end with C. Between C and C, you'll have 7 sequence of notes with a semitone. A semitone. What is a semitone? That is a new term that we need to define. A semitone is a half step. Music believe in two kind of distances: a whole step and a half step. So a whole step is called a tone. A half step is called a semitone. Note, a half step is the distance between one note to the neighboring note. Remember, when you are dealing with a note like this one, which is a C, the two neighbors that are neighboring C, it is this black note and this white note. This is a C, this will be a B. This will be a C sharp. We are going to handle that one shortly. But the neighbors between, for B, it is B and B flat and B to C sharp, to C, sorry. So the two neighbors is a black note and a white note. So the distance between one note to the immediate neighboring note is a half step, which we call a semitone. A tone is a distance between one note but with two semitones. A semitone is between one note to the next note, and then another semitone starting from the edge, the second note where we started, to the third one. So as a tone is a distance between this note to this note, and a semitone is between this note and its neighbor. The other term that we need to understand is a pitch. What is a pitch? A pitch is how sharp a note is. How sharp. How sharp is a note is from in reference to the other. And those are the terms that we need to understand very clearly, so that we can be able to form either the chords or the scale. Remember, music, the main intention of running all these things is to understand the scale, because each and every song is played within a scale. And we have defined a scale as a 7-note sequence with a semitone between a third and fourth, and between 7 and 8. Now, this is the question that we need first to answer. If I'm having a scale from C scale to C scale, and we have said from C to C, we need to have 7 sequential notes that have a notational sound. Remember, from C to C, if you count all the chords, all the notes that are from C to C, there are 12. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember, we had counted these as the beginning of our counting, so we don't need to count it again. So between C and C, we have 12 notes, but our scale need only 7, meaning between C and C, we must have 7, and we must exclude 5 to make a scale. So one question is, what is that is going to guide us so that we remove the 5 that are not supposed to be in that scale, and we are left with 7? For you to do that, because that is where the formation of a scale comes in, you have to understand what is a tone and what is a semitone. Now, I repeat again. From one note to the neighboring note is a half step. And this a half step is what we are calling a semitone. Now, from this note to the neighboring note is another half step, a semitone. From this note to the neighboring note is also a semitone, which is a half step. From this note to the neighboring note, a half step, which is a semitone. Also, from this note to this note is a half step, which is a semitone. Remember, from this note, which is a C, to the neighboring note, which is a D, it is a whole tone. Why? Because from C to C sharp, we have a half step. From C sharp to D, we have a half step. So when you add C to C sharp half step, and from C sharp to D half step, we make one whole step, which is a tone. So from C to D is a tone. From D to D sharp is a half step. From D sharp to E is a half step. So a half note from D to D sharp plus a half step from D sharp to E, it makes a whole note. Now check here. We have E and we have F. Remember, this is a half step. Why? Any distance between from one note to the neighboring note, immediate neighboring note, this is the smallest distance between E and F is a half step. So don't get confused, because from this one, which is a white note, to this one, which is a white note, is a tone. From this one, which is a white note, to E, this is D, this is E, this is a tone. But from this white note to this white note is a half step. Why? This is the neighboring note. And we say from one neighbor to the immediate neighbor is a half step. Now check this one. This note, from this note to this note is a half step. From this note to this note is a half step. So a whole step from this note will take us to this note, which is a C sharp. Why? Because from this note, which is a B, to this note, which is a C, is a half step. And from this note, which is a C, to this note, which is a C sharp, is a half step. So a half step plus a half step will give us a whole step, which is a tone. Now remember, a single position is a note, and this single position is also a note. So the distance between this note, which is a B, to this note, which is a C sharp, is a whole step. but the distance between this note, which is a B, to this note, which is a C, is a half step. Now, we need to understand the formation of a scale, which normally we use in a song, is made using tones and semitone. Now, how do we form those the tones and semitone? First, we have to understand the naming of the piano. All these, what are they? Either the black note or the white note. Now, musically, we use 3 types of naming. One of the naming is alphabetically, meaning we use alphabets to name the notes. Alphabets in music, we start from A, we end with at G. When we are at G, we go back to A, meaning if this is an A, how do I know this is an A? I know automatically music has defined as a note which is between 2 black notes that are together. The note between them, which is this one, is a D. Now, alphabetically, from when you are at D, the next note will be E. Alphabetically, the next note will be F. Alphabetically, the next note will be G. And then the music has already defined as, when you get into G, you go back to A. So this will be A. So let us start again from C, D, E, F, G, and A, B, C, and D. So the note between 2 black notes is D. The 2 notes between 3 black notes that are together, it's G and A. So the note after 3 black notes will be B. The note before 3 black notes will be F, before. The note before 2 black notes is C. And then the note after 2 black notes, it is E. So when we define them from C to C, this will be C, D, E, F, G, and then we go back to A, B, C. Now, remember we have named all the white notes. We need to name the black notes because the definition of note did not exclude the black note from definition of what a note is. So, for instance, if you take this note, you'll understand that this note is between 2 white notes, which is C and D. Now, we have to understand the distances between a note and the other note is a semitone, which also we call it a half step. Now, a half step can be a backward half step or a forward half step. Now, if we are at C and we are going backward, a half step will go to B. If we are at C and we are going forward, a half step will go to a black note which is next of C, which is this note. Now, what is the name of this note? Because we need to understand the naming also of the black notes. Now, this note and this note are related in one thing. They share a certain part of the name, not a complete name, because this black note is borrowing the name from the neighboring white notes depending with where you are going. If you are at C, which is at a white note before 2 black notes, the note that is in front or forward of C will be a C sharp. Why? C, when you add a semitone on it going forward, we say you are sharpening C, and then you get a C sharp. The C sharp is between two white notes, the C and the D. meaning for you to get at the black note which is before the D, we'll get a D flat. Why? Because we are going backward from D, backwards a semitone, we are flattening, meaning we are lowering, meaning we are going backward a half step from D, and then we are getting at D flat. So the black note, which is C sharp, has two names. When you are going forward, which is moving toward your right hand, your right direction, this will be C, this will be C sharp, this will be D, this will be D sharp, E, this will be F, this will be F sharp, this will be G, this will be G sharp, this will be A, this will be A sharp, this will be B, and this will be C. Now let us go backward. This will be C, this will be B. Now because we are moving backwards and the note that is neighboring this is this, the black one, this will be B, this will be B flat, this will be A, and this one will be A flat, G, G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, and C. Remember, now this one we have two names of this black note. We have one name going forward as C sharp and the other name going backward as D flat. So this one has two names. Now the white notes, all these white notes, the other name of all these white notes, they are called naturals. Why? Because they are using natural alphabets. Remember, between C and D, alphabetically, we don't have anything between C and D. But musically, we have a note which is having a different sound from C and a different sound from D. Meaning that music doesn't believe that from C to D, we don't have any sound that is in between. Because music believes in both the whole step and half step. Whole step and half step. Remember, whole step is a tone, half step is a semitone. So music believes in both the halves and the full. The full is the tone and the halves is a semitone. Now we start from C again, which is here, up to C. Now we wanted to see how many notes do we have in piano. Remember, piano is grouped into two types of notes based with the color, the black notes and the white notes. The black notes also, they are grouped into two categories, the threes that are together and the twos that are together, right? So all these black, we call them accidentals. All these white, we call them naturals. Now, having said that, it means now you can define or we can name from C to C all the notes that are between our C and our second C. Now, between C and C, we have 12 notes. What do I mean? From this one, we have C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, A sharp, B, and C. Let us go backward. We see what we'll get. We have C as our starting point. Moving backward, B, moving backward, B flat, moving backward, A, moving backward, A flat, moving back, G, moving half semitone backwards, G flat, moving half semitone backwards, F, backwards a semitone, E, moving backward a semitone again, we get E flat, moving a semitone backwards, we get D, and then a semitone backward, we get D flat, and then we are back to C. Now, if you count notes from C to C, there are 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, remember, this C is the same C that we begin with. So, if you are counting this one, you exclude this one. If you are counting this one, you exclude this one because you are repeating. Meaning, we have 12 notes in music that will make 12 chords and also will make 12 notes. Now, 12 scales. Now, let us define the third term, which is a chord. A chord is 2 or more notes played together. As long as it is not 1, it is 2, it is 3, it is 4, it's called a chord. Basically, music we use a triad type of a chord, which is 3 notes, because a triad is from tri meaning 3, meaning we use 3 notes of a chord. Remember, when you are playing a scale, which is a 7-note sequence with a semitone between the third and fourth, and between 7 and 8, when you are playing a scale, you can play it in 2 ways. One of the ways is using the notes. We can play a scale like this one. That is a C scale. Now, remember, we said a scale has a semitone between third and fourth. C scale, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. A semitone, half step. Remember, we said from one note to the neighboring note is a half step, which is a semitone. Now, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So, third and fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also, this one, a half step. Why? This is neighboring this. From one neighbor to the immediate next neighbor is a half step, and that half step, we call it a semitone. So, when you are forming a scale must form a notational sound, meaning it has to have a sound like this one. Meaning it has to have do at the first note, re at the second note, mi at the third note of the scale, fa as the fourth one, so, la, ti, do, until you are at the 7th or the 8th note of the scale, which is also the number 1 of the scale. So a scale must start with the note that you started with, which is denoted by the name of the scale. For instance, if you are playing a C scale, you have to start with C and end with C. If you are in D scale, you have to start with D and end with D. If you are in C sharp scale, you have to start with C sharp and end with C sharp. Remember, a scale need only 7 notes, but between C sharp and C sharp, we have 12 notes. By counting, you'll get 12 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember, this C sharp is same as this one. So when you count this one, we don't count this one. So between this one and this one, we have 12. But a scale needs 7, meaning that we have to exclude 5 between C sharp and C sharp to remain with 7 that will make a notational sound. Now, the question is, how are we going to determine the scale that we are the notes that we are going to use in a scale to make a notational sound? We use tones and semitones to determine the formation of a scale. I repeat again, we use tones and semitone. A semitone, we said, is a half step between one note and the neighboring note. So is the shortest distance between one note and the other note. As a whole step is two semitone or two halves added together. For instance, from C sharp, a half note, a half step will go up to D, then a half step will go from D to D sharp. So meaning a tone is from C sharp to D sharp, but a semitone is from C sharp to D sharp. Now, recap of what we have done or what we have said. A note, which is very important to understand, is a single position in a piano, meaning a single note, either a white note or a black note, is called a note. A semitone is a half step, meaning from one note to the neighboring note. Remember, a note is a single position, a semitone is a half distance, a tone is a whole distance, meaning two semitones added together. A scale is a sequence of 7 notes with a notational sound with a semitone between third and fourth and 7 and 8. And we said music has 12 notes, meaning if you want to know the notes, you take for instance a G to G, then you count the notes that are between, or an A to A, you count the notes that are between. You take from a G sharp, for instance, up to a G sharp, and you count the notes that are between. You'll find that all the notes that are between G sharp and G sharp are 12 notes, and those are the notes that are in music. We meet in the second part, which is chords and scales formation.